All right, now that we showed you this pit, the first thing we got to do before we use any pit is season it, right, Chuck?
That's right. We got to season it, and we're also going to oil the outside. It's a top secret oil. It's vegetable oil, actually.
If I'm going to get my pit seasoned, I want to make sure the guy that's built the pit shows me how to season it. And so you should stay tuned. If you need to get a pit seasoned, check this video out.
All right, like Mike said, we're going to season the inside of the smoker. Uh, what I need to do first is I'll take out all the grates, and then I use vegetable oil. There's a lot of oils that you could use to season the inside of a smoker. You want to stick with something that has a high smoke point. So this one has about 410 degrees for a smoke point. I believe avocado is 520, beef tallow is 480, butter is I think 410 as well. There's a lot of things you can use. I stay away from peanut oil because I don't know if people with a peanut allergy will be affected by me using the oil on the inside of a pit with peanut oil. Avocado oil, if it's you doing it, you can pay for the avocado oil because the price point for vegetable oil is pretty cheap. So that's why I use vegetable oil. And like I said, the smoke point is 410, and most of the time when you are cooking on a smoker, an offset smoker, you're really only going to about at most 350 degrees if you go that, do a hot fast cook. So most of the time I stay around 275. 250, 275 is what I aim for. Sometimes I drop to 225. So this oil is plenty good for seasoning a pit. So what I need to do, is I'm going to remove all the grates, clean the inside. The pit has already been cleaned. I use a mild soap and water. After I weld the pit and I clean it up really good, I vacuum it out. I knock off any of the slag or the spatter, and then I vacuum it out. I'll use denatured alcohol to remove any of my Sharpie marks and whatnot. And then after that, like I said, mild soap and water to clean the inside. Once I've got all that residual dust that happens on building one of these pits, the mild soap and water won't cause this to rust anymore. So that's why I feel confident with using mild soap and water to clean the inside. And as you can see, these grates aren't rusty because of using water. So, and now we'll take everything out, including the tuning plates, and we'll oil the inside and then start adding things back into it. And then we'll close it up. We'll then oil the outside. A lot of people don't use tuning plates. I do. It's not a secret that people don't like to use them, and it's not a secret when people do use them. There's nothing about it other than I do have the flexibility to move this baffle forward and back to allow some of that heat to come up behind this baffle and sort of get that top heat that a lot of the Texas pitmasters are looking for smoking meat. So one thing I've noticed with what I do, and hopefully, cross my fingers, hopefully it's evident today when we start running this that eventually all the dials will even out because of our use of tuning plates. Doesn't mean you're not going to get smoke or smoke flavor on any of the food here, but that's why I use it. And I do it because I want the pit owner to be able to use the entire pit. I mean, you paid a lot of good money for something. You don't want to only use half of it. Might as well use all of it.
Great point.
So, to avoid making messes, I pour this inside the chamber. And you don't need a lot. There's only maybe about a cup of vegetable oil in here. I just take one of my rags. I used to use paper towels, and then it would leave little paper towel shreds everywhere, and that was kind of frustrating. So basically, get vegetable oil on the entire rag, and then just start. Like I said, you don't need much. Some people may ask, why not just spray it on? You can spray it on. This is just a method that I do. Most likely, even if I were to spray it on, I'd still have to use a rag to smooth it out because you're probably going to get runs, and if you're dealing with a windy day and you're doing something and that's the only day you can do it, on a windy day, it's not windy today, thank goodness, but on a windy day you're gonna be fighting that spray, and like I said, you're gonna use a rag. So I just hit the entire surface. It doesn't take that long. Put on some good music. Treat it like you're washing the car, just give it a nice good wipe down.
So these 115 gallons, are they turning into your new backyard builds? Are you doing more of those now, or kind of 80s, 95s, or mixture?
It's a mixture. I have a couple of 60s, an 80, and three 44 gallons, so some smaller ones. To build out of 18-inch pipe, and it's whatever the customer can afford, which totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, for sure.
You're investing good money and time, your own time, working at a job, and I always, when people ask, they have, just like ordering food at a restaurant, sometimes your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Sometimes people think they need a 250 gallon or need a 500 gallon, and I always ask them who you cook them for, and
right.
then I normally narrow it down to that. If they're just cooking for them, for a small gathering, an 80 gallon is enough. If it's for that person, their spouse, and some kids, a 60 gallon is fine. If they like to entertain or they have a product to sell, then something this big is probably going to be worthwhile. This is a great competition size, because if you're doing several meets at a time for different turn-ins, this 115 gallon allows you to put a lot on and meet those deadlines when you have to. But for me, it's just me and my wife. This would be a little too big. Would I like it? Of course, man. Why wouldn't I want something this big? It's pretty badass. I might go and look in there, see if I miss a spot.
Looking pretty good. See, all oiled down.
Yeah, let me get these.
All right, we're finished up with the inside. Now it's time to start seasoning the outside. Any tips or tricks that we need to think about, or everybody at home listening in needs to think about when they're doing theirs?
I use vegetable oil, and the reason I do that is most people have vegetable oil, so most likely when you are upkeeping your smoker, you're going to grab that spray oil from the pantry, or you're going to grab the liquid oil from the bottle, use a rag to put it on. Not too many people have the boiled linseed oil. It's flammable. In fact, if you do this while your chamber is hot, that actually will start burning your hands. So a lot of guys will use fireproof gloves, and not everybody has that. So my method is, while the chamber and the firebox or the whole smoker is cold, I'll just wipe oil on. It's always better. I've had people tell me, I tried to do it on a windy day, and most likely you're going to get that atmospheric dirt, debris, flower petals, whatever you live near, pine needles, whatever, is going to just fly onto it. So always, when you're doing the outside of your smoker, pick the quietest day. I think right now it's about 2 to 5 miles an hour wind. It's perfect for this. So let's start oiling.
Let's get it. All right, we're going to continue here to wipe down the outside of this bad boy before we can fire it up for the first time. So y'all stay tuned.
All right, so we're done oiling the outside, and with the help of Mike, we knocked it out pretty quick. What I love, and this goes with any pits whatsoever, it acts like a clear coat, so whatever's underneath it pops. So as you can see from the earlier videos, this has completely changed. So you can see a lot of the patina, the natural patina that this pit has, just pops, and to me, it just gives it its own personality in my viewpoint. So now it's time to fire this bad boy up. Now that the inside and outside is all oiled up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, time to fire this baby up. If you notice, he's putting the smaller logs on there first. And cross them up. Building it, you want to allow airflow. You just throw them in there and stack them in there. There's not going to be any airflow for that thing to catch fire. Yeah, and we could use some fire starters, but why use fire starters when we got a torch?
That's right. That's the one thing, and I have nothing against fire starters or chimneys, but I look at it this way: if it's going to take an hour to preheat, I don't want to sit for 45 minutes burning a chimney starter, then wait for it to preheat for another hour. Then you just added 2 hours to your morning cook. One thing you always want to do when you first start a pit is you want to open the doors and open up the smokestack. Because if you don't do that, you're fighting the cold environment inside. And a lot of times I've heard people complain that it's not lighting, and that's because you're getting this backdraft of cold pressure that is get all this acrid smoke billowing towards you. So it's just good to give that wood and that fire as much oxygen as you can. There's plenty of time when you get the fire to be self-sustaining, when that fire is creating its own fire, when it's combusting, to close up the doors. But right now, if I pull that weed burner away, you're going to notice it's not a self-sustaining fire. So I want to wait until that happens. One thing I touched on was self-sustaining fire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this weed burner away from the logs. I'm going to make sure that my fire is self-sustaining, that these logs are well ignited and they're igniting each other. If you don't do that, it's just fighting. You see that white smoke? So that lets you know it's not combusting the way it should yet, so I'm going to just give it a little bit more. I'm going to call that good.
Heck yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and close it up. Now that I've got it oiled up, I'm going to go ahead and put my gauges in so I can monitor this and start messing with the tuna plates as needed to dial this thing in for Mike. So what I did is I numbered these. There's a certain aspect of adding these bungs to the pit that you can never seem to get them tight enough, and then when you go to put these gauges in, they want to turn a little bit past. So I got them where they need to be. I numbered them where they go. So when we put these in, they should line up exactly where they need to be. Might have to get that fire going a little bit more. So I'm glad this is happening, because this is a situation where you don't have a self-sustaining fire. And it's very important that you get that fire to be self-sustaining. That way you can get rid of that smoke. Sometimes it can be easy as just running the torch a little bit longer or repositioning the wood. So since I'm seeing more of a flame in the back, I'm going to start bringing some of that back towards me. All right, so we do have a decent fire going. It's not crazy. It's self-sustaining, but I do want to reposition these because I got too much smoke coming. So bear with me as we move things around and get some better draft going. So we've got the fire going. It's nice and clean. We've got good flow. I'm starting to see the gauges responding and giving me some feedback, and it's telling me a few things. Right now we've got a lot of heat down at the other end, so the first thing I'm going to do to offset that is I'm going to push this baffle that I have forward a little bit towards the grate to let some of that heat escape and come up instead of being pushed all that way. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Whenever you're tweaking and getting a smoker dialed in, take baby steps. Don't do everything at once. So I'm going to do that, which will cause me to do one more other thing. We're going to leave it at that and come back to it. So in this case, to move that baffle, I have a nice rotisserie poker. I'm going to take this baffle and I pushed it right against the grate. That gives me about a ½ inch gap. So now that heat, instead of being pushed down, is going to get diverted in two directions, more down, less up. But that'll be one of the steps. The other one is using the same poker. I will push my first tuning plate towards the smokestack. That's a little too much. But I want to aim for about a 1/4 inch. Might be hard to see, but there's a 1/4 inch gap there now. What I'm doing is I'm wanting some of that heat that I diverted towards the smokestack to now come up this way, and we'll see what that does to this gauge here. And I'm okay right now because I am seasoning and getting this vegetable oil to adhere to the chamber, so I'm not too worried on a day like today that that's high. Also too, like I said, it's giving me feedback of what this pit is doing on startup. So let's go. All right, so what we did earlier is we pushed that baffle forward, and we've got results from it. We've now got this temperature up on this gauge. We've moved that a bit, and it's started to, the end gauges are matching each other relatively. But I am seeing this one a bit higher, but I do want to affect this one. So I'm gonna push the baffle, which I think is about right here, a little far forward to let more of that heat come up over it and affect that gauge. Actually, it's this one here. And because this one's a little bit higher than the end one, I'm going to push it back and just ever so slightly. There you go. Little changes. All right, so we've been at this for now about 3 hours, and we've got it pretty much dialed in where we want it. We adjusted the baffle, the tuning plates, a little bit with the smokestack, got the fire where we wanted to, and pretty happy with the results. Now it's up to you to take over. Got to get this thing loaded up and out to Pahrump, buddy.
Heck yeah, I can't wait to take it out there. I hope you enjoyed the videos today of us unveiling this wonderful pit that Chuck built for me, season it, the whole process. I hope you learned a lot from it. If you liked what we got going on, subscribe to the channel, check it out, and stay tuned to see what we cook on it first. Oh, yeah. There we go. Appreciate it, brother.